But then on the flip side to that is you've seen sort of the positive side of it. And obviously when we look at things in context, and historically we've seen all these reports and sort of the data that comes in with young Black Caribbean boys being sort of low down in the rankings and low down in the sort of the numbers of them that go to uni or the numbers of them that get into certain levels of uni. That then sort of lends itself well to like having somebody like yourself who can actually have a real direct impact firsthand. Do you think enough of that has been done? Do you think there's enough of these role models, or do you think we're making it too gimmicky and we're making it an issue when it's not an issue?
No, it's a good question. Something that I'm quite passionate about, talking about representation. I think it's certainly not gimmicky. I think when you look at the statistics, the data that shows, Black African Caribbean boys being excluded at alarming rates, attainment not particularly great, and this has been the case for decades, for years. I think one of the things that I can identify that is a problem within the education system is the lack of Black teachers, the lack of Black male teachers. If you want to go even more detailed than that, the lack of Black male primary teachers. I think as Black educators, we make up maybe 2%, I think, of the teachers' workforce in this country. And if you look at the amount of senior leaders within education, the numbers are, alarming. You look at it and you think, wow, across this whole country, there's only a certain amount of head teachers that are Black. So I don't think it's gimmicky at all, because I think, it matters to see people who look like you, who can represent you, who can be an advocate for you, who can relate to you, whether it's from a senior leadership point of view or whether it's from just your class teacher or even if it's just a TA. One thing I never had growing up was a Black male primary teacher. Finding a male teacher in the primary school was quite rare anyway. I probably had one that I can think of. But then finding a Black or an Asian one, for instance, it never happened. I didn't have one. It's a very female-dominated sector, particularly in the primary department. So it's not gimmicky. I think one of the things that I think would contribute to supporting and helping and changing things for our Black students is having more Black role models and more Black male educators, particularly in the primary department, because, as someone that's worked in the primary sector for like almost 10 years now, the thing I love the most about being a primary school teacher is that children are like sponges. When you're teaching a child from the age of like 15 to 11, they're like sponges. They soak up everything you give them in terms of the quality of education that you give them, the time that you give them, the nurturing side of it. And then I think what happens is it gets lost a little bit in the secondary world, the minute they start in year 7.
I see a problem with that though. I do see a problem with that.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. And the problem, and I see the problem with it on a primary